Hey, people of YouTube. I know a while back on my Facebook page, I had promised that I was going to do some album rankings and going to do the first of those today. Not that big of a catalog, only 7 albums altogether, but this is going to be the albums of the original Alice Cooper Band, when that name applied to the entire group. Of course, lead singer Vince Fournier changed his name legally to Alice Cooper. And after 1974, when he fired the entire band, he went solo and continued to work with Bob Ezrin, who produced quite a few of the band's albums. It was never quite the same feel afterwards. You would see him on Hollywood Squares after that. He just became like this gone Hollywood celebrity from a guy who was like this wild, horror rocker. He was becoming a little more tame. They still had the big show and everything, but now he's a guest on Hollywood Squares and all your mainstream normie type talk shows, out on the golf course, that kind of thing. So this is 7 albums in total. We're going to start off with the weakest one in the chain at number 7. And mind you, I still do like all these albums. Some of them I enjoy just a little bit more than the others, obviously. But at number 7, we've got Muscle of Love. Of course, the infamous artwork in this, it came in a cardboard box, which took up way too much space in the record stores. The retailers didn't like to stock it, which was another reason why the sales were hurt to this. Other than the fact, too, it didn't really have a strong single to sell it. On the Greatest Hits album, we get Teenage Lament 1974, which is the most unmemorable song on that whole Greatest Hits album. Personally, I think the lead-off track, Big Apple Dreamin', was a pretty good song, and with the right push, though I wouldn't say it would be top shelf, Alice Cooper Band, would be a pretty decent single if that had been given a chance. Another problem with this artwork is people thought their copy was defective because of this water stain along the bottom, which was totally intentional and part of the artwork. But again, this was just a crazy album cover. It starts to fall apart after years and just doesn't hold up. It was a silly idea. Probably something the record label should have totally shot down. But anyway, these guys were coming off of a series of just huge albums. So I guess they could call the shots at this point. And in this point, it was not a good one. And after this record, things fell apart. Of course, Alice fires the band, and the rest is history. All right, so at number 6, let's go with School's Out. On my last listen to this one, I appreciate it a little more than I used to, went into it a little more open-minded. I used to think that just the title track and Looney Tune, which follows it, were the only things really worth listening to on this. The rest is pretty forgettable. There's this kind of West Side Story theme on this thing that doesn't really work. But School's Out. Let's talk about this. This is probably one of the biggest rock anthems written in the 1970s. I remember 1972, this record coming out, everybody getting out of school to the tune of this blasting on the radio. And that was like an annual event that signaled the beginning of every summer vacation if you were a kid in the 70s. And of course, that continues on. I don't know if people still remember that, but I say to this day, this is like the summertime song that kicks it all off. At Looney Tune, great tune that reminds me, if it could maybe come off of Love It to Death, has a little bit of an older sound to it. I like it quite a bit. The rest of it, I can pretty much do without. But anyway, at number 6, this is School's Out from the original Alice Cooper Band. All right, at number 5, and let's take a look at both the remastered CD and the original vinyl. Of course, this was still on Frank Zappa's Straight label. Yeah, that was Straight. He had Bizarre and Straight, but this was when supposedly he wasn't all that involved. He signed the group, but we'll get to a little bit more of that with the next album. But in 1970, this comes out. It's kind of a mixed bag. It's a little unfocused, a little uneven, but there's some stuff on here that I really do like. There's some clever lyrics. Mr. and Misdemeanor leads it off. Shoe Salesman, a song about a junkie who sells shoes in a store, is kind of weird. Below Your Means is kind of trippy. Return of the Spiders is really a great kind of latter psychedelic type of track. Refrigerator Heaven is really cool. The last section, Lay Down, Die, Goodbye, Beautiful, Fly Away. I think they're out of order here on the, no? Okay, I do remember the last song is pretty trippy on this and pretty long. Like I said, this is a little unfocused. They can't decide if they want to be kind of arty and psychedelic, a little punky, but, you know, things on the next record, of course, would be the breakout on Love It to Death. I still enjoy this album quite a bit, just not as much as the debut. But this is 1970, Easy Action from the Alice Cooper Band. Which brings us to the next one, which I'm going to rank as a little ahead of Easy Action from the Frank Zappa Straight Records era. This is the debut called Pretty's For You. And you see the group shot of them dressed in some crazy stuff here and everything. Kind of weird, futuristic looking thing. This is pretty psychedelic. And that's the reason why I like it. It's from 1969. Sounds like it could have even been from earlier, like 68. I imagine this material had been around for a couple years, probably going back to 67 when like psychedelia was really big. But I think this is a little more focused in that psychedelic thing than Easy Action is, which is just kind of a mishmash. But I enjoy this album quite a bit, although a lot of people rank it at the end of this catalog or whatever. It's produced by Frank Zappa, who, from what I understand, didn't do much in the way at all on the session. If you read Dennis Dunaway, the bassist's book, he talks about how they basically went into a studio with Frank, and I think it was one of the other mothers of invention, Napoleon Murphy Brock, I think it was. And they set up, mic'd everything, and Frank told them to run through your songs, and he said, I got to take a shit. He goes in the bathroom, and he doesn't come out until they've played everything. And he announces the record's done. Of course, they did do some overdubs and some other things a little bit later on. I guess Napoleon Murphy Brock or somebody else worked with them, but Frank Zappa was never to be seen by them again after this. So this is ranked as number 5. This is Pretty's For You, 1969 on Frank Zappa's Straight label. Which brings us down to number 3. This was the group's breakout album, Love It to Death. Of course, it does have this blurb on it that says, you know, featuring the hit I'm 18, which would be their first Big anthem, like School's Out, one of the biggest rock anthems in existence that's, existed in the realm of hard rock and heavy metal as a tune to cover. Just, an excellent classic. I love this entire album. To me, there isn't a weak song on this. Ballad of Dwight Fry is an epic. You should also check out the Melvins cover of that on their weird Lysol album EP. I don't know what you would even call that thing. But anyway, great songs on this. Caught in a Dream, Long Way to Go, Hallowed Be My Name, Is It My Body, Second Coming. Cover version of Sun Arise is kind of a weird ending to the album, but still kind of works. But this is one of those albums where you debate whether to rank it, where to rank it. I would say anywhere in the top 3. This part of the catalog, I had really a difficult time deciding what was number 1, 2, and 3. The next couple are a little more developed in terms of production and them working with Bob Ezrin. But these are great, strong 1971 proto-metal hard rock tunes is the best way I could describe it. Definitely their first classic LP. And then next we're going to go to, also released in 1971, is Killer. Another amazing, amazing album. Be My Lover, I mean, another great, radio song on this record, where, you've also got Under My Wheels, another, hard rock, heavy metal classic. There's just so many of these. Halo of Flies, You Drive Me Nervous is a good rocker. Of course, Dead Babies was the song that, your parents would just be destroyed if you were listening to that. Why are you listening to music about dead babies? That is, fucking sick. But anyhow, that was part of why this group were shock rockers. This was the group that parents pre-Kiss loved to hate. It's an incredible production here by Bob Ezrin. There's orchestration. He's just a master musician himself, and he just brought so much to this band. But anyhow, Killer, I rank this as number 2, a classic from 1971. Which brings us finally to the one I consider the masterpiece. The last great album by this group. This is 1973's Billion Dollar Babies. Now, especially where I grew up, Alice Cooper was huge. This tour was huge. I remember them coming to the Baltimore Civic Center. I didn't go, but remember the next day walking to school and seeing a classmate, her dressed in complete Alice Cooper garb. It was not unusual at this time for people to just dress like Alice Cooper for the hell of it. This group, I lived in a little town of ne'er-do-wells, and these guys were the kings. And this album was the masterpiece. Hello, Hooray, Elected, Unfinished Suite, and another one for the parents, I Love the Dead, ends this. A true shock rocker. Of course, Kiss would borrow a little bit for their stage show and the use of makeup, wanting to be for Alice Cooper's. But anyway, the absolute masterpiece, Billion Dollar Babies. So that's it. The ranking of the 7 albums by the original Alice Cooper group. Just to review, going from number 1 and backwards then. Number 1, 1973's Billion Dollar Babies. Number 2, 1971's Killer. Number 3, 1971's Love It to Death. Number 4 is the debut Pretty's For You. Number 5 would be Their second album, Easy Action. Number 6 is 1972's School's Out. And at number 7, we get, and is it even convenient? Yeah, I can show it one more time. Muscle of Love, number 7 from 1974. Anyway, that's it for today. If you haven't listened to any of those albums in a while, go ahead and revisit them like I did earlier, and enjoy.